Hi, Skimbun. I was having a chat with one of our viewers while giving away free school shoes to kids living in rental flats. We were in Pasir Ris and Punggol, and this was part of a community initiative by the Dedicated Locals Caring Community, or DLCC. So if you live in the area and want to lend a hand, or if you know any school kids who want to use a new pair of shoes, just reach out to me. We ran out of some sizes this round, so we'll be putting in a reorder, and hopefully we can get to even more kids next time. Now, on today's topic, we were chatting about something quite different, about how the 4 autonomous universities in Singapore are going to be launching more Mandarin-taught postgraduate programs in the coming month. And honestly, my first instinct was a raised eyebrow. Something about it just didn't sit right with me, but I couldn't immediately say why, which is odd because I have no skin in the game. And if you don't already know, I already did my master's at SMU in quant finance. Basically, it's math applied to financial markets, and it was hands down one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. Because you remember calculus from school, maybe a bit of statistics. Now imagine the worst of both worlds, where every single variable in your equation is probabilistic. That's stochastic calculus, and that's the foundation of most financial math. Honestly, I could hardly tell if lectures were in English or Mandarin. Everything just sounded like gibberish at the start. Okay, but jokes aside, let's take a step back and look at this properly. I'm thinking 4 main stakeholder groups we need to consider: the universities, the students, the employers, as well as the government. And let's start with the universities. I think right now only NTU, SMU, SUTD, and SUSS have publicly said they are expanding into Mandarin-taught programs. The one glaring omission, NUS. And I can think of a couple of reasons why NUS might be sitting this one out. Based on the latest QS World University rankings released last month, NUS is ranked 8th in the world and 1st in Asia. For comparison, NTU is 12th, and the others aren't really in the same league ranking-wise. So it's not surprising if NUS is doing a bit of A/B testing, seeing how this plays out. Because QS rankings matter a lot, especially for foreign students looking to pursue postgraduate education. And the big unknown is, will adding Mandarin-taught courses actually move the needle on enrollment? Also, NUS has positioned itself as a global competitive research university with English as the academic standard. Meanwhile, NTU has already been dipping its toe in the Chinese executive education market, and it currently offers 4 Mandarin-taught programs targeted at professionals from China. And each of these programs brings in around 50 students annually, and the tuition averages around $50,000. So that's 2.5 million revenue per program per year. So not small money. So at the end of the day, this is a calculus of upside versus risk. And it's hard to imagine any university saying no thanks to that kind of revenue, unless they are facing real constraints. But based on what I have read, the main bottlenecks aren't lecture halls or classroom slots. It's finding enough qualified faculty and program funding. So space isn't an issue. So the ceiling is pretty high. Now let's talk about students. And when I say students, I mean both local and foreign ones. But I'll zoom in on students from China where it makes sense, since these are Mandarin-taught programs and they are a large group. Now, here's a tricky question. Are we really growing the student pie, or are we just shifting students from English-taught courses into Mandarin-taught ones? Because if it's the latter, it might just be cannibalism. So for example, think about local students who see China as the growing force in the world and want to future-proof themselves. So these folks might already be planning to take up something like managerial economics, for example. And now they also got the option to improve their Mandarin while they're at it. And I'll use myself as an example. I can speak and read Mandarin decently, but writing, let's just say I need Google Translate to double check everything. That said, I got some base to work from, and if I wanted to level up both my economics knowledge and my Mandarin at the same time, a Mandarin-taught postgraduate course like this one offered at NTU might make sense. Then there's the group of students who are focused on job opportunities. So let's talk about something I know well, the commodities industry. Just scroll through job ads in this space and look at how many say Mandarin proficiency required. I'm telling you, it's not just preferred, it's required. And these companies I'm playing are, if you want to work for them, you better be able to hold a proper conversation in Mandarin and be able to write. So for these students, doing a Mandarin-taught postgraduate course isn't just about the paper. It's about real doors being opened after graduation, and that's important in this economy. For universities, this is a right pocket, left pocket situation, because these students would have enrolled anyways, they're just choosing a different language track. But I suspect they're still the minority, especially for technical programs where it's already hard enough learning a new skill. Now try doing it while also brushing out your language at the same time. Oh, good luck, man. Okay, let's talk also about foreign students, especially those from Mandarin-speaking markets like China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, etc. So for them, Mandarin-taught programs in Singapore are honestly a blessing. Think about it. You get to study abroad in a global city, travel around ASEAN, pick up a quality degree all for a fraction of what you would pay in the US or UK. Because over there, a master's could easily set you back over $100,000. But in Singapore, it's more like 30 to 60,000. So that's a steal. But here comes a caveat. And it brings me to the third group, the employers. Okay, we got Chinese companies in Singapore, sure. But the majority of employers here, they're still going to be looking for English-speaking candidates. Now, imagine you're a foreign student who spent 1 to 2 years in a Mandarin-taught bubble. You graduate, but your English hasn't improved at all. And that puts you at a clear disadvantage. And it's very likely that you'll end up needing to head back to where you came from to look for work. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but universities need to be upfront about this reality. Because don't paint a picture that everybody gets to stay and work in Singapore if that's not really the realistic case. That said though, there are employers who will benefit. The ones who are desperately needing Mandarin-speaking hires. I know because I've been that guy trying to bluff my way through one of these roles. So let me tell you another story. I once applied for a role that clearly stated Mandarin proficiency required, and I still applied. Somehow I got an interview, but the moment it started and the interviewer switched to Mandarin, I was done. Crashed and burned. Absolute language fraud. So yeah, everyone's time was wasted, mine, the employers, and if the interviewer is watching this, 我对不起你. Point is, Mandarin-taught programs will help companies cut through the noise. They'll get a pipeline of candidates who actually meet the language bar and who's been trained in the right skill sets. And so that they don't have to rely on good looks and charm to compensate for their poor Mandarin like me. Okay, lastly, let's talk about government. In Singapore, English isn't just a language. It's the glue that holds our multicultural society together. So if we start seeing more and more Mandarin-only tracks, some might feel we're privileging one language group over another. But we're not there yet, and I don't think it's a slippery slope for now, but it's something worth watching. Also, universities are supposed to be melting pots, a place where different cultures and ideas come together. But if these Mandarin courses start becoming large enough to form their own little enclaves, we might lose that campus diversity. And right now, each program has around 50 students, still manageable. But if the numbers grow, as they probably will because, let's face it, these programs are money spinners, then the government needs to keep an eye on how things evolve. Teaching faculty is another area to watch. From what I know, there are quotas to maintain a healthy balance of academic staff, and we're seeing more adjunct lecturers, especially industry folks, coming in to bridge the theory-practice gap, and that's great. But if we start over-prioritizing Mandarin-speaking faculties, we may unintentionally crowd out these important voices. I think ideally, we should be developing strong bilingual lecturers, not just people who are fluent in Mandarin, but folks who can teach effectively in both languages and connect with a wider mix of students. And finally, let's not forget the labor market. For graduates from these Mandarin programs, is there a plan to help them integrate into local workplaces where English is still the dominant language? Or are we accepting that many will study and go? I think it would be helpful for MOE and MOM to be clear about what the long-term intention is. That way, students know what they're signing up for, and it also helps the rest of us understand how these programs fit into the bigger picture, especially at a time where people are really struggling to find jobs in Singapore. Alright, that's my take. Most of our autonomous universities are now leaning into Mandarin-taught postgraduate programs. And based on what I've seen online, I know many of you have strong opinions. So let's talk. Jump into the comments and let me know your thoughts, but let's keep it healthy and civil. And if you found this video helpful or you just enjoy this kind of content, do leave a like, subscribe, and share it with someone that you think might benefit from it. And until next time, this is our Red Dot Perspective.